What does the future hold for mankind? Is it an existence of luxury and ease? Will advances in science and technology take us to new heights and bridge the gap between nations?
When people would be scoffers as a prediction of his coming in the end times, and it also describes catastrophic events from earthquakes to pestilences to the earth groaning. In fact, that is happening now.
Yet how much does the average Christian really know about the future God has planned for us? And frankly, why should we care? In our modern world of relative ease and comfort, why should we pay attention to these ancient words?
God has a plan for mankind, and it isn't just filled with tribulation and destruction. It's absolutely critical that Christians know what the Bible says about the days leading up to Christ's return, because Jesus himself said these days would be filled with deceit. We've got to be prepared so we can identify the false teachers, false prophets, and even the Antichrist himself.
Almost 30% of the Holy Scriptures are devoted to prophecies about the end times and God's final judgment. Yet in churches across America, the end times are hardly mentioned. Is Christ's church dangerously unprepared for his return?
Time and time again, we see examples of how the Bible predicts history before it happens. In fact, eventually, everything that the Bible prophesies comes to pass.
I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains.
Just as a woman experiences labor pains before giving birth, so Jesus has described the period in time leading up to the tribulation as one of increasing conflict. Are we seeing the fulfillment of this prophecy even today?
As the sons of Ishmael pointedly threaten the sons of Isaac with extinction in what they describe as a holy war. In fact, the Islamic terrorists have now extended the threat to the entire non-Muslim world.
It is hard to believe, but once again, tiny Israel, the nation that was brought into existence in a single day in 1948, is at the center of the conflict.
Israel awakens every day with the realization that her neighbors are committed to the destruction of the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. So Israel has to look at the whole threat from Iran in a different perspective, because the Iranian president has stated specifically that he wants to wipe Israel off the map.
Does the mere fact that conflict continues to exist in the Middle East mean we're on the brink of Armageddon? Many people, Christians included, believe this to be true. In fact, they believe this is what the Bible teaches.
The Antichrist is the one who will be able to bring this about. And when this happens, we'll know the end will be near.
Famine has also become very familiar to the world, along with the disturbing power and frequency of natural disasters, such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and even tsunamis. It should come as no surprise to Christians that the Bible predicts just such a turn of events. But even those who are unaware of the biblical prophecies can see the evidence of their fulfillment in headlines around the globe.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic activity, tsunamis. Right now we're seeing some of the most destructive geophysical forces in recorded history. The Pakistan earthquake, in terms of loss of human life, could very well be the most devastating ever.
Here in the United States, scientists are beginning to pay more attention to the volcanic wonder we call Yellowstone National Park. Actually, the park is situated within a caldera, or opening of what was once a gigantic volcano more than 50 miles across.
People tend to forget that all of this scenic beauty sits on top of 2,400 cubic miles of volcanic magma. That's about 5,000 times the amount that was ejected during Mount St. Helens' 1980 eruption. This sleeping giant has recently shown signs of awakening, and it is a terrifying prospect if it should blow its lid.
Living in a country like America, it's sometimes difficult to imagine the kind of destruction the Bible speaks of ever coming to pass. Yet as we've seen, the possibilities are there, just below the surface. There's no doubt something is going on, but are these really the signs of the times that Jesus spoke of? or simply a surge in Earth's natural cycle of such events. Many of the most respected Bible scholars in the world believe that we are truly seeing the very signpost Jesus spoke of. Does this mean that the tribulation, the worst period of death, destruction, and moral decay the world has ever seen, might just be about to begin? And if it is possible that the end is near, where will Christians be when these awful days fall upon the world? Interestingly enough, the strange turn of events in the natural world have not gone unnoticed by the modern scientific community. What do they have to say about our planet's unusual behavior? Could it be that science has taken a seat at the prophetic table? Many people, even some Christians, find it difficult to believe the ancient biblical prophets could have so accurately predicted events occurring today. The evidence of Earth's violent activity is just one example. But what about society as a whole? Are sociologists and anthropologists finding a similar destructive pattern? And does the Bible predict such a trend during the end times? The Apostle Paul, writing from prison to his protege Timothy, said, "There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money." Today his warning sounds all too familiar.
The final age of this world is to be a time of troubles. Men will love nothing but money and self. They will be arrogant, boastful, and abusive, with no respect for parents, no gratitude, no piety, no natural affection. They will be implacable in their hatreds, scandalmongers, intemperate and fierce, strangers to all goodness, traitors, adventurers, swollen with self-importance. They will be men who put pleasure in the place of God, men who preserve the outward form of religion, but are a standing denial of its reality. So these men deny the truth. They have lost the power to reason and cannot pass the test of faith.
Living in a country as blessed and free as America, a future so bleak is hard to imagine. But that raises another question. What role will America play in the last act of the drama? Will the United States side with the forces of God or the armies of Satan? And when will the great and final conflict of mankind take place, the Battle of Armageddon? At the start of the 21st century, the ancient past is always at hand to remind us of God's eternal truths. In the Megiddo prison complex in Israel, a prisoner was removing rubble from the planned site of a new ward when his shovel uncovered the edge of an elaborate mosaic, revealing what many archaeologists are saying may be the Holy Land's oldest church.
What's most exciting about this find is that it dates from the decades before Constantine legalized the church in AD 312. The mosaics there tell the story of a Roman officer and a woman named Achaetus who donated money to build a church in the memory of the God, Jesus Christ. It's also interesting that the remains of the church were discovered near the plains of Armageddon, Megiddo, at a time when many religious scholars believe we're facing a very real possibility, the possibility of that last great battle taking place near this very spot.
So how much time remains before the last great conflict begins? The great prophetic clock of the end-time prophecies seems to be winding down to that very moment.
The armies of the world will gather to fight the Battle of Armageddon. It'll be the bloodiest, most horrific battle in the history of mankind. Christ's second coming will stop the battle. All the world will witness his glorious return. He'll save Jerusalem and defeat the forces of the Antichrist.
According to the Bible, the Middle East crisis will continue to grow until it threatens the peace of the whole world. This will bring a world leader to the forefront who will be welcomed with open arms. He is the Antichrist. He will make a strong covenant with the people of Israel and bring a peace to the region. According to the prophet Daniel, the minute the leader of Israel and the Antichrist sign this pact, the great timepiece will begin ticking once again.
The prophet Ezekiel talks about the time when nations from the north will come against Israel. Led by a prince named Gog, most people believe that's Russia, along with other nations, Persia, which most people believe is Iran, Libya, Ethiopia, will come against the nation of Israel.
John the Revelator adds considerable detail to Ezekiel's account. For example, John tells us the size of the army that will be assembled for the final battle is 200,000 or 200 million men.
What role, if any, will America play in all of this? Most people think of the United States as a strong ally to Israel, but has the U.S. unwittingly harmed Israel in the quest for peace in the Middle East? And if so, is there a price to be paid for these actions?
America is married to two ancient brothers, the Arab and the Jew, Ishmael and Isaac in prophecy. One marriage was because of black gold oil. The second marriage was over guilt, the death of 6 million Jews as America hardened its heart, closed its borders, and turned its head. There is absolutely no way out. The covenant that America cut with Ishmael over oil will not change. The covenant that America cut with Israel will not change. So America is in fact in the eye of the prophetic storm.
With the rise of terrorism in the Middle East and the situation with the Palestinians getting more volatile day by day, the nation of Israel has become the focus of world attention. In 1991, the President of the United States initiated the Madrid peace process. This plan was for Israel to give up land for peace. The land involved the West Bank, Golan Heights, Gaza, and specifically Jerusalem. The problem with the Madrid peace process is that God has promised the land of Israel to the Jewish people as in an everlasting covenant, and that the prophets mention that whoever divides this land will face judgment from God. In Zechariah chapter 14, the prophet says, "In that day I will seek to destroy all the nations that have come against Jerusalem."
Could it be that in its attempt to achieve such a worthy objective as peace in the Middle East, America has inadvertently put itself prophetically in harm's way? Has her peace initiatives caused her to come against Israel?
I'm not a prophet, but I encourage you to read the prophets Zechariah and Joel, which clearly state that God will judge the nations that attempt to divide his covenant land.
Matter of fact, the Bible speaks about in Genesis 12:3, those nations or those people that bless the Jewish people will be blessed, and those who curse them will be cursed. The United States has experienced many, many years of blessing because we have been really the only nation in the world that is a true friend of the nation of Israel. However, in October of 1991, President George Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev, the Russian president, sponsored the Madrid Land for Peace Conference. And this was the beginning of many catastrophes and catastrophic events that affected the United States going forward. What happened in Madrid is George Bush was talking about Israel giving up their land for promises of peace and security. The perfect storm that had developed in the Northeast Atlantic was sending 30-foot waves into President Bush's Kennebunkport, Maine home. August 24th, 1992, the Madrid Conference convened in Washington, D.C. On the very same day, Hurricane Andrew, the largest hurricane at that time in U.S. history, pummeled the state of Louisiana and Florida. This was a devastating storm that happened at the same time Israel's land was being discussed in meetings in Washington, D.C. On January 15, 1994, President Bill Clinton and President of Syria, Hafez Assad, were in Geneva, Switzerland, calling on Israel to leave the Golan Heights. Within 24 hours, a major earthquake hit in the center of Northridge, California, producing the largest earthquake in U.S. history, and at that time, the second largest disaster in U.S. history. Many of us heard and watched Israel leaving the city of Gaza. On August 24th, the day the final Jews were evicted from Gaza and northern Samaria, Tropical Storm Depression 12 formed near the Bahamas. Within 24 hours, it was Tropical Storm Katrina. Within 72 hours, it was Hurricane Katrina, hitting southeast Florida. 72 hours later, Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, producing the largest disaster in U.S. history that dwarfs 9/11, Hurricane Andrew, and the Northridge earthquake in size and intensity.
God has blessed America in innumerable ways, but it seems that he has clearly not forgotten his promises to Israel. Has America felt the wrath of God for the recent stance it's taken on the Middle East? Is God sending us a message through an uncanny sequence of natural disasters timed to coincide with key events? Are you prepared for the prophetic events that are sure to come? Do you have a relationship with God through faith in his Son, Jesus Christ? Will you recognize the signs for yourself?
The daily reading of the Scriptures, particularly the New Testament, is a must for every Christian.
The world is a time bomb whose fuse has long since been lit. The hoofbeats of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are clearly to be heard by all those who have ears to hear. The bad news is the Titanic is going down. The good news is you don't have to get on it. For there's an escape route, there's a way out, there is an alternative. For we are promised that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved.
Jesus said, "Lift up your head when you see the signs and know that your redemption is drawing near." These are signs of hope and the assurance that the end times are a new beginning.
Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Now the dwelling of God is with men, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away."
How close are we to this amazing culmination of God's plan for the world? As Jesus himself said, only the Father knows for sure. So then why did God choose to give us so many tantalizing clues without allowing us to solve the mystery? Perhaps it was for one simple reason. He wants us to be ready, not just in the end times, but at all times. Jesus told his disciples to keep watch. Although we cannot know the day or the hour, we can be certain he will come in all his power and glory, and that we will be with him for eternity.